Greetings. So, my last video from a few days ago touched on the ironic phenomenon of certain folks familiar to this channel who complain out one side of their mouth that the ADL employs accusations of anti-Jewish bigotry to shut down arguments, and yet those same folks express out of the other side of their mouth an open desire to use similar accusations to get arguments they don't like removed from the public discourse. In short, the persons in question aspire to censor speech they don't like while trying to invoke the right to free speech in defense of speech they do like. And shortly after that video came out, the Journeyman and Woman channel, which was itself the target of a campaign from precisely that crowd, expressed a similar thought. So as an addendum to my previous video, I'd like to play a clip of the host of that channel alluding to his own experience with that group, and fair use.
I will say this, though. It's really interesting, again, to see, because, you know, I'm talking about the ADL here, but there's also a black version of the ADL, too. It's a black Hebrew version of it, and I've experienced them. Did you know? Oh, yes, they are very much live and well and at work. And I remember it fondly, and some of you, well, not fondly, I'll take that back. You know, you dare question something, then all of a sudden campaigns to get people to unsubscribe, things to, trying to shut your business down, literally, it's by spreading lies about your business, so trying to hit you economically, saying that you're in a cult, that you're teaching occultic things, and just a whole campaign. And I talked about this, and I keep bringing this up. Not, don't think, oh, well, he's still hurt by that. No, it ain't about hurt. I just want people don't forget these things, because a lot of times we stay so focused on the white man, and we got to focus on, the enemy, the devil, a lot of times is right in your own backyard. You know what I'm saying? And this is just true. And so it's very funny to sit back and watch how, you have individuals out here who are, flaming the ADL, which I don't agree with them either, but they've been acting like the ADL for I don't know how long now themselves, so yeah, it's really something. But anyway.
Now, what inspired this video, which you're currently watching, was a recent show by Sista E from last night, or for those of us that are on the East Coast, the show aired in the wee hours of this morning. But whatever the case, the show was titled Anti-Freedom of Speech. And in that show, Sista E alluded to infringements on people's rights to free expression through intimidation, through economic pressure, and through straight up censorship, removing videos and other materials. And I agree with the sentiment which Sista E was sharing in that show. I think everyone should be against attempts to shut down discussions by labeling people as bigots, etc., right? We should all be against censorship and infringement on free speech, and especially these forms of like intimidation and stuff like that. And like I said, labeling that's designed to shut down discussions, right? But I must confess, I also sensed a bit of irony, as just 2 years ago, Sista E herself was openly expressing her desire to employ the very same tactics to stifle free discussion, right? She wanted to get videos which criticized people she liked taken down by flagging those videos for alleged anti-Semitism, right? And I played this clip in my previous video, but I want to play it again here to drive this point home, and fair use.
I was talking to Dante. Dante said, it's all right. They do some flag them. And that's plain and simple. Because if you flag them, guess what, y'all? They get shut down. So if we find out they doing the video, the UA community, that's them. Flag them. Let's shut them down. And that's key. We are going to have to make a concerted effort that if you do our videos like the way you've been doing them, we're going to flag you. And we will get that video shut down. overnight. So that's why I said, family, if you are a mod, please make sure you are on point in this chat on Sunday. And if y'all see videos, start flagging them as anti-Semitic, plain and simple.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that.
Now, as a disclaimer, I just want to make clear that I respect Sista E, and I honestly and personally believe that her natural inclinations lead towards free speech, right? As I've said before, she actually used to have a public forum on Facebook which was dedicated to open dialogue. Now, unfortunately, people around her convinced her to dismantle that forum because those folks felt threatened by open, uncensored discussion. But with that in mind, it's my sincere hope that today, as Sista E sees the clear issues and the clear problems with trying to stifle discussion via censorship and legal intimidation and accusations of bigotry and all that, it's my sincere hope that she recognizes that such tactics are wrong across the board, right? Not just when they're deployed against people she likes, but wrong across the board. As Noam Chomsky has argued, if you only want free speech for speech that you like, then you don't actually want freedom of speech, right? The whole point of freedom of speech is that it protects speech that this or that party, whether it's you or others, speech that a certain party doesn't like. And to use a rather glaring example of this, Chomsky, being philosophically consistent on that point, even extended it to Holocaust deniers, right? He felt that Holocaust denial was repugnant, but he argued that even their speech, which he found disgusting, should be protected under the right to free speech. Here, consider a couple of relevant clips, and again, fair use.
I do not think that the state ought to have the right to determine historical truth and to punish people who deviate from it. I'm not willing to give the state that right, even if they happen to
But are you denying that the gas chambers ever existed?
But I'm saying if you believe in freedom of speech, you believe in freedom of speech for views you don't like. I mean, Goebbels was in favor of freedom of speech for views he liked, right? So was Stalin. If you're in favor of freedom of speech, that means you're in favor of freedom of speech precisely for views you despise. Otherwise, you're not in favor of freedom of speech. There's two positions you can have on freedom of speech. Now, you can decide which position you want. With regard to my defense of the utterly offensive, the people who express utterly offensive views, I haven't the slightest doubt that every commissar says, you're defending that person's views. No, I'm not. I'm defending his right to express them. The difference is crucial, and the difference has been understood outside of fascist circles since the 18th century.
And I also want to add that this point doesn't just apply to Sista E, right? It applies for everyone. I've been saying for a while that Christians need to be wary of this sort of increasingly popular cultural impulse to support the idea of governments or private organizations punishing people for thought crimes. One should be able to see how easily such power can then turn around and be deployed against Christians and others, whatever your position is. And there are Christian apologists who can tell you that I've argued this point privately for years, even on something as minor as like censoring the comment section of their videos. There are other Christians who can tell you how I've asked them to open up their comment sections and I've asked them not to delete their comments, etc., right? You see, defending a person's right to express what they believe does not entail agreeing with those expressions, right? You can debate these people, you can offer disagreements, you can offer refutations, but you should still support freedom of speech across the board. So that means freedom of speech for Ron Dalton, freedom of speech for Kanye West, for Kyrie Irving, and yes, it also means freedom of speech for those who dare to disagree with some of the people in Sista E circles, right? And now, for Christians, I would remind you that this surrounding secular culture already holds that free speech protects disagreements with and criticisms of all the tenets, all the axioms, and perhaps even all the dogmas of your faith, right? Even the very existence of Christ himself can be questioned in this society, right? So now, if that's how free speech works, okay, fine. But then you should be suspicious if the secular power structure then turns around and tries to introduce new dogmas and sacred cows, which cannot be questioned, right? Your position should be that if your faith is not exempt from criticism, if the things you hold sacred are not exempt from criticism, then nothing else should be exempt from criticism as well, right? If your religion, if the Christian faith doesn't receive a protected status, then no other ideological group should be extended a protected status as well, right? Keep that in mind. But with that, I'm going to close this brief video here. And as always, I invite the comments, questions, and criticisms of others, right? As I always point out, I never censor anyone here. So feel free to share your thoughts, whether positive or negative. And with that, God bless.
All I can say is bravo, Chase Bank, and bravo, LeBron. Y'all are the real MVPs of 2022.
All right,
Wow.
what are y'all thoughts?
That was disgusting. That was disgusting. This woman is cheering on. I mean, I understand it's growing in popularity these days over the last, I don't know, decade plus. But to me, it's still disgusting to cheer on attempts to undermine people financially, and their livelihoods because you disagree with them ideologically, right? You don't have to agree with what Kanye believes to respect his right to affirm that kind of stuff. That was the way she cheered it on. She's at best, she's naive because she doesn't see how empowering governments, and she didn't explicitly say governments, but financial institutions and governments.
Go ahead.
Yeah, when you empower financial institutions and tacitly governments to harm people for having wrong ideology, for committing quote unquote thought crimes, she's naive at best if she doesn't know that can easily swing back on her. At worst, she's a monster for cheering that on. I mean, that was terrible and it was ugly. Real quick about Kanye, he didn't say anything that justifies trying to harm him financially. That's what I would say. He may have said things that people can disagree with, but none of that justifies trying to go after him financially.
Right. He didn't deserve what they did to him. I think that was.
What about Ron Dalton and
Boo, you the truth, man. I can respect that, man.
No, he just got some help right now. What about Ron Dalton and claims of anti-Semitism?
Me? You asking me? Me personally?
In light of what we
understand
anti-Semitism to be.
I think my thing is, I think we should look at, like, I'm very big on free speech, so I'm not into the labeling. I don't like getting into things.
Let's go, Covey.
This guy's
real talk, Covey.
I'm not into saying, this person's an anti-Semite, this person's. I don't like the labeling and the name calling. I'd rather just look at, are the claims accurate? Are the arguments good? Because when people get into the labeling, that's used to shut down arguments, and that's something I'm not a fan of. So what I would say about Ron Dalton, I'm not going to throw any of those sort of accusations like quote unquote anti-Semitism, but what I will say is that in terms of his arguments, I watched his 2018 film, the one that Kyrie Irving linked to, and the argumentation was not good. I definitely don't favor it being censored, though. That's ridiculous. People are calling for it to be censored. That's outrageous. But in terms of the argumentation, it was poor, in my opinion. It was very unimpressive, and I find his reasoning. That was something I realized when Ron Dalton debated Yeshub. Ron Dalton's reasoning is shaky, to put it mildly.
You gotta give me that video. You gotta show me that video. Go ahead.